Hey guys, welcome back to Mr. Fix's channel. If you're new to the channel and you enjoy easy to follow DIY videos, consider subscribing and hitting the bell icon. And if you do enjoy the content and it's helpful to you, it'll also be helpful to me to hit the like button. Okay, with that being said, in this video I'm going to be showing you how to change the rear wheel bearing on a Nissan Versa. Let me show you all that's needed for the job. Okay, so what you need to do the wheel bearing job on the Nissan Versa, apart from the obvious, you'll need a jack and a good jack stand. If you don't have a jack stand, I'll show you in the video how you can use your wheel and tire as a jack stand for safety reasons. Then I recommend having impact, but if you don't, a breaker bar or a good size ratchet with a long handle will do. You need a 21 millimeter or a 13/16 to remove the lug nuts, to remove the wheel, and then the 4 bolts that hold the wheel bearing assembly. You'll need a shallow and deep 14 millimeter socket. And while doing those bolts in the back, you might need extra room. If you feel like that's the case, then you'll need a 17 millimeter to remove the one lower mounting bolt for the rear shock. So that will give you a little more space to get to those bolts on the wheel bearing assembly, but that's not required. And also a good penetrant that's going to be needed, especially if you're in the north and your car is really rusty. Yeah, you're gonna need a lot of that, and then some brake cleaner to clean everything off when you're doing the reassembly. All right, so that'll do it. Let's get back to it. Okay, so if you have the hubcaps instead of the alloy wheels, to remove the hubcap, you just grab it pretty much anywhere and pull straight out. So it'll come real easy. Make sure these don't snap, or if you do snap one or two, you're gonna have to replace the hubcap because it's not gonna sit in place or just fly off on the road. To get the lug nuts, it's a 21 millimeter, or if you have standards, you can use, what is this, 13/16. It fits perfectly on there, real snug, so you can use that. And if you don't have an impact, it's best to do this on the ground when the car is sitting on all 4 wheels. Use a breaker bar or a wrench with extension to break the lug nuts loose, and then once you break them loose, you can jack up the vehicle, put your jack stand on, and continue with the wheel remover. So I'm gonna do that real quick and we'll continue with the video. Okay, so wheel is off. Just a quick safety tip: if you don't have a jack stand, do not trust to work under your car with the jack alone, because if the hydraulics let go, then and your hands are under here, that's going to be a bad day for you. So quick thing, if you're going to be removing the wheel, work under the car, just use the wheel, slide it under the subframe or some other point of the car where if the jack lets go, the car is going to drop back on the wheel. And even if it does damage your wheel, it's still going to be a lot better to do that than pinching your fingers down here and snapping them off or breaking a limb or something. So just a quick safety tip. Alright, so with the wheel removed, to get the drum off, you usually need a hammer to just go around it like this, but this one is pretty loose, so I can even go with my hands and just work it out like that. And now you can see this is the hub. So it's got 4 bolts on the back that's holding the hub, so it's a hub and wheel bearing assembly, all one unit. So it just unbolts from the back, and then this whole unit will come out, and you don't even have to touch the brakes or any of the other components. None of that is in your way. So you just undo the bolts on the back. I'll show you right now, and then the whole assembly will come out. So let me show you the bolts right here. Oh, I got the sun shining right at the camera, but yeah, there's 4 bolts right here. They're 14 millimeters, and you have the rear shock is right here. If you do not have a socket and wrench combo that you can use, and you feel like you need a little more room to fit your tools back here, you can just undo the mounting bolts on the bottom of this rear shock. It's a 17 millimeter, so undo the bolt and loosen. That'll give you a little more room to maneuver, so you can move the shock either way, and then you can fit a longer extension or a deeper, longer socket if you need be. But I'm gonna go ahead and loosen these and show you how the assembly comes out. As you can see, I'm using the 1/2 inch breaker bar with a longer socket, 14 millimeter, to break these loose. Just be careful with this brake line so you don't hit it, bend it. I mean, if you bend a little, it's not a problem, but if you give it a nice enough bend, then you're gonna have an issue with the brakes. So just try to avoid hitting the line while you're loosening the bolts. All right, so all 4 bolts are out, and as you can see, they're all the same length, so you can't screw up putting them back in or mix them up. And I thought they had some Loctite on it, but it looks like it's actually just anti-seize, so you don't have to worry about putting Loctite on these when you reuse them. But here's the assembly. Once it's unbolted, just tap on it. You're not gonna hurt the bearing because we're replacing it anyway. If you got a rusty assembly, you might have to give it a more substantial whack to get it out. Okay, I gave it a couple of smacks with the hammer. Pretty good ones, as you can tell. So the whole thing, actually, the whole assembly with the brakes and everything, decided to come out from the frame with no problem, but the actual hub, as you can see, this rust buildup over here is preventing it from coming loose from the actual drum brake assembly. So I'm just gonna get some sandpaper, clean this best as I can, and spray some WD-40 or some other penetrant that you have, and then try to hit it a few more times with the hammer, and hopefully we can separate these two so we can get the hub out and leave the brake assembly in place, which, by the way, is the hub. The wheel bearing hub is what's holding it to the frame, so you're gonna have to get some type of support in here. You can get like a little bungee or something to hold the drum brake assembly in place when you remove the hub. So I used some 80 grit sandpaper. It cleaned around the back of the wheel bearing housing. This is where it was stuck, the rust, because this is where it sits, right here on the brake assembly, and the rust that was built up on the back of it was preventing it from coming out. So yeah, cleaning it with some sandpaper, lots of penetrant, and lots of brute force. So if you live up in the northern states and your assembly is really rusted, you're definitely not gonna have a fun time doing this. But it is a simple job as long as the parts cooperate. And yeah, I'm gonna pop the new one in and show you the final product. Oh, by the way, I've used the actual mounting bolts. I just stuck them from this side through the holes into the frame, so it's holding the assembly for me, and there's no need for me to hook up any bungee cords or anything like that. So here is the new bearing. Amazon special. China, of course, best parts on the market. So complete assembly. Make sure when you get it that it does match the one that you're going to be replacing. They do sell the other models that have the ABS, so this part is going to have a plug for the ABS, for the wheel speed sensor. This is the plain Jane Versa, so it doesn't have even four-wheel ABS. So yeah, just make sure you get the right part. If you don't have ABS, then you don't need to worry about getting the other part. And match up, make sure you got the right one to for your car, because they do have the front ones and kind of look similar, except that I think they have like 3 mounting ears instead of 4. So again, make sure you get the right one, match it up to your old part, and then proceed with the install so you don't run into the issue of having to disassemble everything back again. Alright, so here's the new one, and I'm going to pull the bolts. Line it up, it goes right into place, and then just put the bolts from the back. Getting the first one lined up and started is going to be usually the hardest one, then the other one should just go into place. And I didn't actually look up the torque spec on these, but if I do find it, I will post it in the description down below. Usually I just tighten it as much as possible and call it a day. It's worked out for me so far. So, but I know some people want to be by the book, so I'll try to find it and post it in the description down below. Alright, let me go ahead and torque this thing down and reassemble it. Here's the look of the final product. So the wheel bearing hub assembly is in, but before you go ahead and put the drum back on, if you did use penetrant, make sure you hit it with a brake cleaner, so you don't want any penetrant to go on your brake pads. Alright, that should do it. Get the drum lined up. Press it in. Make sure everything's spinning freely. And we're good to go. So now we can put the wheel back on and job all done. Okay guys, so as always, thank you for watching. If you did enjoy the video and it was helpful to you and saved you some money, please consider subscribing, hitting the like and notification bell for me. And as always, stay safe, be blessed. I'll see you on the next video.